Everyone, one of the videos that I did for this week's module went down, and I appreciate you reaching out to me and letting me know. The video is no longer available for different reasons, but what I tried to do was just simplify some of the logical fallacies that you're going to see in Hitler's piece that we're reading for our third essay. And so I'll just streamline it and try to help you as best I can for your essay. So the prompt asks you to argue which is the worst fallacy. And a couple of you have asked questions about whether that means the most dangerous or the most common. And I think that the way to handle it is up to you. But for easier writing, if you pick the most dangerous, I think that makes for the best argumentative essay. And dangerous and what that means is up to you, right? Most dangerous for the world's people, most dangerous for the way that we think as people, most dangerous for the way we interact with each other, okay? You can qualify that as you see fit. But here I have listed 6 fallacies that are just throughout that terrible thinking that you're reading. And I'll just start by talking about the non sequitur because it's a very general term. Non sequitur literally means not in sequence, but we define it as the logical error is that there's no cause and effect relationship. So point A does not lead to point B, and you're trying to say that it does. And it's just a generalized logical fallacy that basically says something doesn't make sense. And you're going to see that throughout Hitler's thinking. And one of the things that I should point out right now is that these fallacies can be layered. If you read one sentence of his work, you might see 3 or 4 of them, sometimes 5. And so I am not asking you to necessarily identify and explain them, but I do want you to look at them, try to understand them as errors in the thinking, and then you write your essay based on what you think is the worst one, right? All right, so non sequitur is a general catch-all term, okay? We just use it for bad thinking where there's no common sense to it, really. But ad populum is a specific logical fallacy, and it's really kind of a groupthink fallacy. A false appeal to a crowd is the best way to understand that. And Hitler's writing was based on speeches, actually, that he gave publicly. So when he's speaking, he's trying to incite a riot in people's minds and then get them to feel this fervor that he's trying to instill in them to tolerate the atrocities that he is going to commit at the beginning of his career in power. As an athlete, when I was younger, 35 years ago, I heard this a lot in locker rooms. It's still around today. If you're a real man, you'll do this. Or if you're a real German, you'll do this. Okay. So there's sort of this assumed false underlining custom or social mores that you're supposed to have based on this case of being German or being Aryan. And he's appealing to that sense, again, to get them to think and eventually to act en masse. Now, moving on here to number 3 that I have listed, we have the false analogy. And I'm going to define it very specifically because a lot of people will use the term, well, that's comparing apples to oranges. And that's a false analogy, but Hitler does it in a specific way. When he compares the animal kingdom to humans, that is his false analogy. And there's a lot of that, and it goes back to the scientist Darwin in the mid-19th century in his studies in the Galapagos, and we misinterpreted those studies in a lot of ways. To think that, if there's limited resources and a high population and competition for those resources, that survival of the fittest reigns and that the strongest will dominate the weak. And, in a small context with an island chain off the coast of Ecuador, that might be applicable, but to all of human interaction, it isn't. So when he talks about what the fox does or what the titmouse does, and then he tries to extrapolate from that looking at that behavior, we should understand what human behavior should be, that's a false analogy, and it's a pretty clear false analogy. If I were writing this essay, that'd probably be my most dangerous one, but you got several to choose from here. We also have the genetic fallacy. Okay. In terms of logic, this is defined as ascribing quality to something, usually a negative quality based on its origin. So my family is from Oklahoma, and if you say, for instance, well, all Okies are stupid, right? It's something like that. But what he does in his writing is to direct it to all hybrid peoples. So he calls Latin American people, Hispanics, Columbus's eggs. And he is really demeaning them because he says they're mestizos, or they're hybrid, or they have mixed blood, right? And that's also a very, very dangerous fallacy. You know, this idea that there's something out there that's pure, and because it's pure, it's better. And we all know that to be really an illness to think that way. And then finally, we have the oversimplification fallacy, which, I mean, very well could be the most dangerous in your mind, to think in terms of black and white and only to allow for a limited number of options for a problem that might have a number of solutions to it. But this is not, let's say it's easily understood as just a language fallacy, because when somebody writes with these words, all or either or, they're already saying that everything is this way, or you only have two choices, you're either with me or you're against me. And so it's a very limiting kind of fallacy. And it's an error because it's limiting. It doesn't allow for individual thinking, problem solving, those kinds of things. You know, for me, any of these last four here could be the most dangerous. I would probably go with a false analogy if I were writing it. But your idea in writing it is to kind of see which one you think is the worst, get some quotes from Hitler's excerpt, put them into your essay and analyze what he's doing and why what he's doing is really dangerous, and then compare how it might be more dangerous to one of these other fallacies that you see. What are the effects of it that you see? Okay. I look forward to working with you. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out. I'll be happy to look at drafts, you guys. Just want you to finish strong and on our last essay, and I'm really rooting for you. I see lots of improvement in your writing, and I'm very happy with that. So for now, we'll talk to you later.